Hello everyone, it's Tana. Welcome back to the Rabbit Hole Designs YouTube channel. Now, I want to say this is actually an Instagram hop, so I'll put all the information for that down in the description box below, but I wanted to share my process with you guys. So I'm very excited to be working with the special release bundle for Black Friday, and we have this really cool V-neck t-shirt here, and it has an image from the special edition stamp set. We have Color My World. It's got this cute little bunny there painting a canvas with a lot of little things like paints and colored pencils and brushes and a paint palette, and this really cool Getting Inky paper pack. Anybody that does not think they do very well with alcohol inks, this is the paper pack for you. Although I have to say it was very hard to cut into the paper, but you can always buy more. It's paper. And I had a lot of fun with these panels, and you will see that coming up very soon. There's also a die set that cuts out every image in the stamp, so you will see that as well. Even though I don't normally use dies, I made good use of them in this video. So I started out by stamping out a whole bunch of images. Every image from the stamp set, and multiples of some of them. Some on Neenah 110 pound, some on the Heffy Doodle alcohol marker coloring paper, and some on Bristol. So first I'm working with the Bristol, and I'm using my watercolor pencils from Derwent. And I'm not going to show you the whole coloring process. It would just take a really long time. But I am going to show you the butterflies and how I went about adding color and spreading that out with the water. Watercolor pencils is not a medium that I work with on a regular basis, but I was pretty happy with the way the butterflies turned out. And also the bunnies as well. Although I think just because I'm not used to working with them and I color with my Copics so much, that it's more normal to me to look at Copic colored images than it is any other medium. But you're not a crafter if you don't try different things sometimes, you know? I mean, I shouldn't really say that. I'm not a crafter if I don't try certain things sometimes. So I was trying to keep it very colorful, but not with the bunnies. I wanted the bunnies to kind of be traditional, so I went with some grays and browns, and just tried my best to work some darker color along the outside edges and where I thought there would be shadow, and brought the lighter colors in towards the center. And I do it that way because of the way I spread the water on the page afterwards. I really liked the gray bunny and how he turned out. I thought he looked pretty cool. It's also harder with a smaller pencil set of any type of pencil or marker set, because you don't have as many colors to work with, so you gotta kind of improvise. So here we go for those. And now the Copics. I am just going to show you how I colored the front facing bunny, another gray, and it's actually a blue violet. I've tended to go towards my BV 29, 25, and 23 when I'm using gray, or wanna gray, I should say. I go towards those more now than my cool grays or warm grays. Not that I don't use the others, but I think this is my favorite grayish color combination. And I did color some butterflies and a lot of paint palettes, as you can see. And sorry for the traffic in the background. I don't know why you guys can hear that lately. Maybe the cars are just going faster. I'm not sure. So after we color this guy, you're going to magically see that I actually used dies to cut them all out. I did not fussy cut anything for this video. Aren't you guys proud of me? So here's everything. Watercolor pencils on the left and Copic colored images on the right. And we're going to get started with our first card. I have a fog card base and the very pretty rainbowed alcohol ink panel. And I'm going to use my Copic colored butterflies, and I'm going to pop them up on a piece of foam circle, and I'm going to place them on their color and just kind of, not in any pattern. I tried to make it as random as I could while trying to keep them on their color. And I had to do a lot of little finagling with cutting this panel to make sure all the colors stayed on the panel so you could see them. And I'm going to add a brush and a palette, a paint palette to that as well. But I used a piece of the extra pattern paper so that I could stamp out my sentiment, ink out with Versamark, and I'm going to cover it with Wow Super Fine Bright White Opaque Embossing Powder. And you can see that pretty clearly. I love the way that turned out. I glue my brush on top of my paint palette, and there's a little tiny speck I was trying to show you of green on the alcohol pattern paper panel. So that's where the paintbrush is pointing to, and I'm going to glue my sentiment on there. And that's it for that first card. I made quite a few cards, actually, out of this bundle. So now we have all of these panels that I cut out of to get all these little tiny images. I'm focusing on using only die cuts instead of stamped images on this card. And so I used those dies that came in the kit, or the bundle, to cut all of those images, those little ones, out of the pattern paper. I'm going to do the same type of thing that I did with the last sentiment strip, same embossing powder, different sentiment. I even cut the bunny out of the brownish alcohol pattern paper, and now we're going to start piecing everything together. So I'm going to glue my sentiment strip on there first because the bunny's holding a paintbrush and I want it to kind of put the tip on the end of the strip. So there is that. And I'm gluing them all down flat. There's no foam tape on this one. And now I'm just going to start putting butterflies, paint palettes, and brushes onto the gray panel. And I believe this is the sentiment that says, sometimes all you need is a little splash of color. So I have the gray panel and then all the colors die cut. And I thought it turned out pretty cute for using just die cuts. There are a couple clear droplet embellishments on that card as well. For this third card, I'm doing a slimline, and I'm using Dress Blues by Catherine Pooler and Steel Navy Ultrafine Embossing Powder from Simon Says Stamp. And yes, again, the butterfly stamp. I think it was one of my favorite little images, or my most favorite little images in this set. And stamped my butterflies back and forth, pointing different directions each time, alternating, up one side, down the other. Heat set them, and I actually had to do this panel 3 times because my butterflies weren't lining up correctly. I was leaving sometimes too little and too much space between them. Anyway, moving on. I'm going to stamp out the sentiment with that same Dress Blues ink on a white piece of sentiment strip. I'm going to heat that, and I'm going to put Steel Navy on it, even though I used the Dress Blues, and I'm going to heat set that sentiment. Now I'm going to go in with some orange. You guessed it. I went to the color wheel and looked for another color that would go with blue, and this is what I came up with. So I went for a variation of oranges, from light orange all the way up to dark. I put those on the screen for you, and originally I was just going to do little circle spots of color on each butterfly, but the image is so tiny, and even though the brush is tiny, they kind of were going to run into each other anyway. So I decided after I did it all to just blend each color into the next. So I'm just showing you here that last color. I've already blended all the other ones, like so. And now I have 2 pieces of the pattern paper, so I could cut it and line it up to extend all the way up the slimline card, because the pattern paper is 6 by 6. And we're just going to put our sentiment strip across where the seams of the paper meet, and that way you can't even tell that it wasn't one piece. So the blue alcohol pattern paper is popped up on foam tape. I'm adding a little bit of Nouveau Deluxe adhesive to that so that I have a little wiggle room, and then it'll help it stay in place permanently. I'm going to glue my sentiment strip across that seam there. And I'm going to use this cute little colored bunny, and this one is Copic colored brown with E79 through E70. And then I'm going to glue that entire panel to a fog card base. fog or white? I can't remember, guys. So I wanted to show you guys, you don't have to waste your pattern paper. I took all the Rabbit Hole Designs word dies I have, cut as many out of the alcohol printed part of the paper as I could, and then I also did it with the white space as well, because you can use that to add dimension. So here are 3 more cards that I did using up some of those words from the extra alcoholic panels. And 2 of those stencils are retired, but this one is not. And I thought they turned out pretty cute for some extra cards to send out. And I hope you guys enjoy the bundle. Head on over to Instagram to see the Insta Hop. I'll have the information down below for you guys. And we will see you in the next video.